Hello everyone and welcome to Where is Xur, IGN's weekly show where we find Xur and we look at his inventory together. Today you can find Xur at the tower. He's over here hanging out in the hangar, so let's go and pay him a visit. Alright, so once you land on the tower, immediately take a left and head down some hallways. You'll eventually find yourself in the hangar and you will find Xur over to the left-hand side near the edge of a cliff. And here we are. Let's see what Xur has in store for us today. Alright, so first up, he's selling the exotic weapon, Prometheus Lens. This is a fantastic trace rifle, has a very rich history in Destiny. Laser tag weekend, anyone? So grab it if you don't have it. It's a good gun. Then we've got Shards of Galanor. This is a great hunter exotic gauntlets, but however, it is pretty low on its roll. It's 60, which is much, much lower than I would prefer an exotic to be, so I would probably skip that one. Similarly, we've got Fang Pauldron, great gauntlets for a Titan, however they're 62, not much better, and especially with that high mobility, 12 mobility total. The intellect is nice, but with high mobility, I'd probably skip over this pretty easily. And then finally, Skull of Dire Ahamkara. This is the best roll we've got, but it's still not great. 63 overall, it's got nothing really spiky. This is a good skull. Good helmet. Unfortunately, it's not a very good roll, and so that leads us to pretty much having a bust this week when it comes to our exotic armor and weapons. So let's move on to legendary weapons. First, we've got Whispering Slab. This has got Killing Wind and Vorpal. Not a bad roll, definitely not. I am not the hugest fan of this bow specifically, but you could do a lot worse with this roll. So in my mind, kind of mid-tier, but pick it up maybe if you need a decent bow. We've got Dire Promise. This has got auto-loading holster and elemental capacitor. The set of perks on this weapon I'm not really in love with, even though Dire Promise is a pretty okay hand cannon. So I can't really recommend this one. Then we've got Escape Velocity with Overflow and Vorpal Weapon. Not a bad combo. I quite like Vorpal Weapon. However, on this submachine gun, Overflow is maybe not my favorite favorite perk. Maybe if you're in PvE and you're trying to kill a whole bunch of things, or you've got Crucible and you're trying not to reload. For me, it seems a little bit like a wasted perk, though, because reloading a submachine gun is already pretty quick. So that's just my personal take on that one. Moving on to Timeline's Vertex with Firmly Planted and Disruption Break. I love Disruption Break on fusion rifles. Firmly Planted can be pretty good if you're willing to crouch for a while. And Ranged Masterwork is also quite good on fusion rifles. So this is probably one of the weapons I would recommend this week. Is it amazing? No, we've definitely seen better fusion rifles, and Timeline's Vertex in general. Timeline's Vertex actually is maybe not my favorite fusion rifle, but you know, the roll's pretty decent. Might pick it up. Then we've got Fractithist. Fractithist with full auto trigger system, probably my least favorite perk on a shotgun, so I'm definitely going to recommend skipping that. Falling Guillotine, it's always good. Every time he sells it, I say this weapon's good. Pick it up if you don't have it. Has he sold better rolls? Certainly, but you really can't go wrong with this weapon, so you should grab it if you don't have it yet. And then finally, Stars and Shadow. He sells this weapon a lot, Xur, and the roll this week is pretty good. Field Prep I quite like on pulse rifles, which gives you increased ammo reserves, faster reload, stow, and ready when you're crouching. I also like Vorpal Weapon, as I mentioned. Bosses, vehicles, and guardians with their super active can be useful in PvP, which is where I mostly use it. And then One Quiet Moment is useless, but it does have a Stability Masterwork, which is quite nice on a pulse rifle. So I think this is probably my pick of the week, Stars and Shadow. Pretty decent pulse rifle with a pretty good roll. And then moving on to Legendary Armor. As per usual, Xur has been very mean to us with legendary armor this past couple weeks, and so I'm only going to be covering Warlocks because they're the only class that really got any decent rolls. They've got these Simulator Gloves with 64 overall stats. The reason I like this roll, it's got 2 mobility. I don't really care about mobility on my Warlock, so the fact that it's the lowest it can get is quite nice. And then it's got 23 resilience, which is really, really good. Overall 64 stat points. So I would say this is a really great roll if you've got a resilience warlock, as I do. So I will be picking this up probably. It's quite possible I have something that's a little bit better than this, but still, you know, you would have to look to find something better than this. So this is definitely worth considering if you've got a warlock where you don't care about mobility at all. The other stuff is sort of similar to what he sold for Titans and Hunters, which is, you know, there's some spiky rolls, there's some stuff that's a little interesting, but overall, the stat distributions and overall point allocation, 60, 60, 59, are just really low. It's kind of another disappointing week for armor for other classes. So, you know, pick up these gauntlets if you're a hunter, or sorry, a warlock, and then if you're a hunter or titan, unfortunately, you might have to wait for another week. And that is it. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully this is useful to some of you. I would like to hear in the comments what your Destiny 2 New Year's resolutions are. And until then, we will be back with more Xur and more Destiny next week. And until then, for all things related to Destiny 2 or Xur, stick with IGN.